So much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, from realtors, lenders, builders, developers, residential or commercial. Essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Our very special guest and future Titan for today, Josh Roy. Josh, thanks so much for taking the time, man.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. I know there's a lot of people in anticipation, just trying to get to know you a little bit deeper and more. So let's just dive in if you're cool with that.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
So you're good. This will be good, everybody. Well, tell everybody a little about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'm Josh Roy, and I'm a Colorado Springs native.
Love it.
I grew up here. Grew up in the Garden Ranch area. I was actually here until 13, and then moved down to actually Southwest Florida. But I call Colorado Springs my home. But I went down to Southwest Florida. Lived. It was right by Fort Myers. Finished up middle school, high school there. But I love Colorado Springs. The cool thing about my childhood is my parents divorced, but I got to come back to Colorado Springs in the summer, and then in the winter I got to go to Florida. And so so teenage years. I mean, I digged Florida. It was great. I loved the warm weather. I was into soccer, into the beach, and then in the summer I could come up here and play around in the springs and hit the mountains and do the camping, river rafting, all that good stuff. So,
love it.
But yeah, I mean after high school, did a year in college in Gainesville, Florida, and I thought I was going to stay in Florida for forever, but the city just calls you back, right?
It drew you in.
Drew me back in. So, I still have some family that lives here, but they all took off, so it's just me. My dad lives in Larkspur.
Okay.
But yeah, so after college, I actually went on a 2-year mission to Brazil.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so went down to Rio, and then ventured over to Utah for college, did my college thing there, stayed there for a little bit, and then so then circled back to Colorado Springs. I mean, when you grow up here, you kind of think, okay, the Springs is cool, it's okay, but then you branch out, you go see other places, and then it just you come back and you're like, yeah, this is a cool city.
Right. Why did I leave?
This is cool. You got mountain biking here, hiking, I mean the city, it's great for families, and so I was like, dude, I gotta get back. So we moved back in, when was it, 2010, the end of 2010. So yeah, love being back.
I love that. So, I mean, and you've been around, so you've seen a lot of perspective and had a lot of conversations with all different walks of life. And but what really got you into the business of real estate? What was your progression in your career, and obviously to where we're at now?
So when I came back from Brazil, I came back actually to Colorado Springs. Just for a little bit, just to kind of figure out what I was going to do, right?
Sure.
I was thinking about going back to Florida for school, and then, then I had a buddy actually was playing soccer at Utah Valley University, and I played soccer. He's like, hey, dude, just come out and play, come out and try out. I think you're going to like it out here. So I went out there, tried out, and then, made the team, got into, into classes, and, I stressed out because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be. Right, and it was hard for me. Like I was like really like I was like stressing out. I was like, hey, what do I want to be? Do I want to be a teacher? And I could check that out. I was like, no. I went to an intro to engineering, and I was like, that's not me, And so it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to be, and then one day it just kind of dawned on me that I was like, maybe I should get my real estate license.
Okay.
And so I kind of I read about it, I Googled it, I remember reading about it, and there was this class was up in Salt Lake. It was an hour away. It's called Stringham Real Estate School, and they did live classes. And so I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license at night while I'm doing classes during the day. So I'd travel an hour up to Salt Lake from my school and do Tuesday, Thursday night classes. And I got in there, Greg, and I was like, dude, this is cool. I like it. So. I mean, of course, you're just learning all the basic, just how to pass the test. But, but for some reason, it hit me in my gut, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. Because I was making the effort, right? I was driving an hour, doing these night classes until 10 o'clock, then going to school, as well, playing soccer. but I just felt like, hey, this for some reason this is calling me in life, and I need to do it, and I'm glad I did. I mean, it was I remember when I passed my test, it was like winning the Super Bowl. I remember calling my dad, my mom, hey, I passed, let's go. I don't know what to do, but I'm going.
I did it. I got it, everybody.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So that's kind of how I got into it. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I love that, that you weren't sure. There's a lot of people out there that just aren't sure, and I don't want to say that there's a lot of professionals that stumble into real estate, but it's not necessarily something that everybody thinks about when they're little. Oh, someday I'm going to be a real estate professional. But it's interesting how people do find a path to that and then have great success and livelihoods with it and continued legacy. So I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So let's go into the different portion of that, because real estate is a very important segment into people's lives and making big impacts and differences. But what is your why, Josh? I mean, at the end of the day, there has to be a driving force above and beyond something. So what gets you out of bed in the morning? What motivates you to do what you do, the level you do it at?
Right. Yeah, for me, my why, of course, is, my family, it's big, right? My office family here, I mean, I love my agents. I mean, I love working with everyone that's in here. So, that gets me up in the morning. But, if I think about, my why, it kind of takes me back even to my childhood because, so my parents, they divorced. And then my mom, we moved down to Florida. And, we didn't have too much, right? I mean, my childhood down there was fine. It was okay. I mean, I had a good childhood. But we didn't have, everything we wanted. Not that we needed everything, but, we kind of got by, right?
Right.
And my mom, she, I remember her struggling through things. And, being the oldest, I could see it more than my younger siblings, right? So I could feel it, right?
Right.
And I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, I just feel like there's more to life, right? There's you can be happy in life, right? So I remember thinking to myself, I was like, and that's maybe why I stressed out so much trying to figure out what I wanted to do, because I wanted to do it with passion and love it, And so I just remember thinking, I'm gonna, find something that I love, but also make sure I can take care of my family. I want to be able to provide everything for them, and there's things we can't get, but I feel like over 14 years in real estate, I feel like I've done a pretty good job, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think my why, that's if I dig deep into it, I think that's where it started. And then of course, as I got older, it was family, and then I opened up a brokerage, and then it was like, hey, I want to take care of my team, my agents, my my family here,
Extended office family.
Yeah, I want everyone to succeed, because I mean that's what I'm after in life. Is at the end of the day, the reason why I opened up a brokerage and the reason why I want to be successful is, sure, money's great, but when you're older, I want to look back and be like, I grew something that benefited me, but also other people as well.
Love that. I think that's a super strong, compelling why, and there's so many different layers to that. So just to address one right off the bat, your office. So walking in here, if you guys can't, obviously see what's around, this is a really great vibe. The energy is fantastic just walking in the door. Everybody's super friendly, and I just love the overall atmosphere. So that makes sense, an extension to your family, and obviously everybody in here feels that particular culture that you built and gone through. Providing for your family is a huge why, and I think that's an amazing wonder for somebody to think about. Is everybody looks at a lot of different professionals and says, oh, it's all about commission and these things. No, you're providing for your family. You're providing for your extended family in the office. These are big things that are happening, doing the right thing in the community. So I love those whys. Just so you know, I think those are great. So let's go into the advisory portion of this, because there's a lot of professionals that are watching, whether they're seasoned or newer professionals, trying to get a glimpse as to what the Titans are doing with their business, how they're growing, that sort of thing. So if you could take a look at your business thus far and pick or choose maybe one or two things that you added that took your business from one level to the next, what does that look like for you?
So I thought about this question. So for me, I think the big thing, so the interesting thing about me is I've restarted real estate kind of twice, right? So in Salt Lake, I got my license, and then I started with Century 21 there. And, you know, I was 23, 24 at the time.
Okay.
And just a young puppy, right? Just like, let's go. Let's go. I don't care. I'm not scared of anything. And like, just, you know, like I said, when I finished my license, it was like the Super Bowl. And went into like the real estate office, was like, here I am. What do I do, man? Just tell me. I'll do it. And, you know, my broker, he was maybe not the best trainer in the world.
Okay.
Nice guy, but he said, hey, you should call FSBOs, for sale by owners. And I said, I'll do it. Give me the sheet. So I would call them. And so for, you know, 6 months, not being from that area, you know, just calling and calling and calling. I wasn't afraid to call, wasn't afraid to go meet people, but there was times where I was kind of getting, you know, beat up, right? And I was like, man, what am I doing wrong? But there was this trainer that came in from Phoenix, and it was called the Smart Agent Program. And he came in and he told me, hey, if you do my training once a week for 8 weeks, I will teach you how to list, I'll teach you dialogue, I'll teach you systems. And I was like, sweet, what do I need to do? He's like, pay me $2,000. Right. And, you know, I'm 23, I'm like, $2,000.
That's a chunk of money.
Yeah,
really
so I, you know, thought about it for a little bit and said, fine, let's do it. And I did his class for 8 weeks, and it changed a lot. Like, it, you know, I went from, you know, this, you know, jumping from here to here quite fast, but he just gave me the dialogue, the things I needed. So I think for me, it's classes, training, coach.
Sure.
You know, I think the biggest thing as a new agent is, you know, doing all the training you can. Because, you know, you get in, you're excited, but, you know, if you can just have some guidance a little bit, hey, what to say, what to do, it shifts it big time. So I'd say training is huge. And then, you know, like I said, too, when I moved here to the Springs, and I had to restart.
Right.
You know, I basically walked away from 5 years of selling real estate there.
Wow.
I'm coming here and going, I'm just going to restart. I know what to do, but, you know, let's do it. It was, you know, humbling, but I was like, all right, I'm willing to do it because I want to get back to the Springs. So
sure. And I think that what you mentioned there, so the mentorship and or coaching, I think is crucially important. There's a lot of Titans that have been on the series who would speak to those and you know, reaffirm exactly what you're saying. That does matter. You can only do so much alone, and having guidance or just an outward eye looking in really does matter, and it can affect in such a positive way. So I think that that's great for everybody to look at. You restarting, I mean, you have the knowledge basis of the past 5 years, you know, where you were, bringing it here. You've had success. I mean, I think the reoccurring notion for a lot of professionals is if you're able to formulate the level of success and people skills and being genuine in nature and knowing what you're doing in one spot, you can duplicate.
Right.
You can duplicate. And obviously you've done that, right? And it just continues to go. So, because there's a lot of people that do move around the United States after they start, and that's a pain point for a lot. So just so everybody know, if you're thinking about it, this man did it. You know, he's a testament right here. So.
I can do it anyway.
Come on, here he is. The humility is there. I love that, Josh. I love that. So hopefully everybody wrote that down. That was some really good advice there. So let's go into the challenge question. Now this one is tricky for everybody because it really showcases a different party that maybe people out there don't know. And what I usually address this one is we all deal with challenges in our life, whether it's in the past, now, or into the future. There's hardship, there's heartache, there's difficult things and bad things do happen to good people, but it's not so much what happens, it's how we respond. So if you were comfortable sharing a challenge that you dealt with in your life, Josh, that you overcame, that you became stronger because of it, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, you know, luckily for me, I mean, challenges, I kind of look, it's kind of funny, like, I try to be a positive person, right? And so, like, for me, challenges, I always look at the spin, like, okay, hey, how's this a positive, right? And luckily for me, like, I haven't had, like you said, like, crazy challenges that were, you know, or, you know, I don't even want to, like, talk about it, but, you know, like, I thought, for me, so when I went on my mission, it was, I was down there in Rio, and we have to sacrifice a lot, right, to go down there. You kind of leave, like, the fun times here, and you go down there and, you know, you don't get paid. You have to learn a language, you're teaching people, but a lot of people are rejecting you. And so, like, I think for my challenge, like, you know, that was a challenge, but mentally made me stronger, made me like, hey, you know what, I can get through things. you know, and then as, you know, I came back and maybe got into real estate, it just helped me kind of feel like, hey, you know what, this is just, it's part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rejection is part of it. And, you know, so like for my challenges, like, yeah, I mean, I think I've always, it's weird because like I always just spin them into kind of a positive, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think when you jump into, you know, maybe real estate, it's challenging, right? But if you look at, like, I remember talking to people like, yeah, it's challenging, but this is fun. It's a game, right? It's a game, right? Like I look at real estate, and that's how I've always looked at it. It's like for me, like you were saying, what gets you up? It's like I've treated real estate as a game. Every day I get up, it's me versus real estate, and like I need to figure out how to win, right? Some days I win, some days I lose, right? But if I, you know, do whatever I can every day, at night I'll feel accomplished, feel good. But yeah, I think, you know, for that, you know, that's probably one of the big challenges that I had. Just mentally, you know, it was tough, but I was able to like fight through it and just learn people, learn myself, learn who I am, and you know, kind of paved who I am today in a way.
I really, really appreciate you sharing that. I think that that's an extremely amazing thing that you did, taking the 2 years out of your life to, you know, serve and really spread the word. I think is it's not easy. It is definitely not easy. There's so many people that really don't have a grasp or understanding to put yourself in a completely different culture and being constantly rejected. I think that the level of rejection that most real estate professionals get, they have no clue, as opposed to serving a mission like we were discussing there. So I think that that's a beautiful way for you to segue into saying what you said, is you took that and you're the man that you are today because of that, right? It makes things a little bit different in perspective for your life, just for your business, but so much more. So that's amazing takeaways for a lot of people. So hopefully, you know, everybody appreciated that. I know that I did. It's not easy to kind of go through that and air your stuff out in front of everybody. So, but let's go on a slightly softer question, if that's all right. So this is actually one of my favorites. And if you could travel back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice or two, what would you say to young Josh?
Young Josh, young Josh.
Or would young Josh listen?
I don't think he would. Young Josh was all over the place.
Awesome.
But I think for me, I would just tell myself probably patience.
Wow.
Right, patience.
Okay.
Be, you know, just keep working each day. You know, be patient with it. Even today, I have to say, hey, just chill. Wow. Let's relax. Things are going to work out, you know, day by day. You're going to make it happen. But yeah, I think if I went back to younger Josh, maybe younger Josh getting into real estate, just patience and just keep working at it. Because there's times where, you know, like I was chatting with another agent a few days ago, and we were chatting about how they want to get to here.
Right.
You know, and I was like, well, this person here, you haven't seen like everything in here, right?
Truly.
So we got to be patient because, you know, they might have 10, 15, 20 years ahead of you. And so to get to that point, you're going to have to grind, work hard, and be patient, right? So I think patience, because I mean, even as a young age when I started, I was like, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need? I need to get to that. I need to get to that.
Super Bowl win, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, all
right, I'm ready to make that money. What do I got to do? But just be patient and just focus, and it's gonna all come. So
I love that. I think that not just young Josh, but everybody who's watching and listening to this, myself included, can really take that to heart. That patience factor is not easy for high-driven, appreciating professionals. They really just want to be to the next level. No matter where they're at in life, there's always, I want to be here now. I want to be here now. I think, and I've talked to several buddies on this particular topic, and I think this is, you know, noted for everybody watching, is if you're looking at it from that standpoint, take time to appreciate where you are. Because 5 years ago, 6 months ago, 10 years ago, you weren't in the same place. You've made those strides. So I guess it's patience is a big thing, but I guess not being so hard on ourselves, I think is a great thing to look at too. So many people just don't appreciate, look where they're at. And then on the other side, I love that you address that. People love to see the success, but they don't quite understand what it took to get there. So a lot of people that are watching this, as real estate professionals, there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of late nights, there's a lot of sacrifice that gets into this, but for what it's worth, you definitely have an impact on the community and longevity into that. So hopefully everybody appreciates that struggle and time frame, and just stay in your lane. Don't try to compare yourself to this person's success or that person's success. Be the best version of you.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah,
that's all
exactly.
we can really look at. So I love that advice that you're giving out to it. Again, not just for young Josh, but everybody out there.
Young Josh, old Josh, yeah.
That's right, everybody in between.
Yeah.
But so let's go into the feeding of the mind portion of this, because a lot of professionals who are watching this, they really, really soak in this data because they want to learn like the Titans learn. They want to know how they're feeding their mind and how they're growing their business. So Josh, if you could look at maybe some books that you're reading, podcasts you're listening to, or influencers in social media. I mean, what are you feeding your mind?
Yeah, I love reading. I'm a big reader. Right now I'm reading 10X with Grant Cardone.
Yeah, great one.
I'm a Grant Cardone fan. I know sometimes he's loud and proud. I love it, but he's got a great book that I'm reading right now. I'm just glued to it. Yeah. I love Tony Robbins. And the other, like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, like there's GSD Mode, but he interviews top realtors throughout the country.
Okay.
But for me, I really like to focus on people that are in the business or have built a business, right? You have a lot, like right now I feel like there's a lot of like motivational people, right?
There's a ton of them.
Yeah, and it's great. But I always like, for me, like a trainer or somebody that's a motivational speaker, I always look to see what they've built, because then, maybe this is bad to like say, hey, you know what, I want to see what you've done.
Sure.
You can be a great speaker, but I want to see if you've built a business,
Are they practicing what they preach?
Yeah.
Did they walk the talk?
Right, exactly.
I hear you.
Exactly. Or if they're still in the trenches. So, like with the podcast that I listen to, it's called GSD Mode. Okay. He interviews realtors across the nation, and he goes into depth, just kind of like what you do, Greg, like, hey, what are you doing? And, I focus on what their systems they're doing, what they're feeding their mind, what's working in their market. And then, like the books that I read, like I'm a big fan of Andy Frisella as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know he's built a huge business, but he's got a great podcast, and he fires me up. And he's got a lot of great things he says. And then, for me too, I'll go to conferences, and a lot of times, like, I love the speakers that are there, but I learn a lot actually just from realtors, and owners when, like, I go to lunch or dinner.
Perfect.
I learn because they're in it, they're in the trenches, and for me, that's what I want to feel and hear what they're doing. Like, hey, what's working for you? And even like here in our community, like, there's some great realtors and great teams and great offices, and like, I look up to them, and I think there's some teams that, we'll watch, and I'll chat with some of my friends and say, hey, what are you doing, and what am I doing? And that's, it goes all the way up from the top of the list to, the big boys and girls to, like, even our community. I learn more even from just people around here, so.
I think that's great. Now, obviously, you're taking sources of information from multiples, which I think is fantastic. There's not one way to learn and grow. I love that you mentioned when you go to these conferences, the speakers are great, but I truly agree with you when I travel as well, and I'm listening and not having the engaging conversations, but the value that I get out of that networking is priceless.
Right.
If you really are in the mindset to do that. I mean, so anybody out there who is really going to these conferences, whether it's NAR or just local Explode or Inman conferences, or I really take the time to know that that's where a lot of the hidden gems are, is having true conversations with people with boots on the ground.
Yeah.
So I love that you mentioned that amongst everything else you did. So just so everybody knows, I'll have links in the comments down below so you can feed your mind and follow the things that Josh is following and feeding his mind. Josh, this has been incredible. So much information inside here, great data, great nuggets for everybody to take away, super inspiring. Last question for you before we wrap this up. So if you could take a look at yourself as a man, as a brand, and sum yourself up with a quote that you live by, or a mantra, what does that look like for Josh Roy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, our big thing is, like, we like to say, make it happen, today. I mean, like, hustle, grind. There's a lot of them, right? I mean, I love, we had a sales meeting the other day, and I was telling the agents, I like to cycle, and I love to, I used to, haven't lately, but I used to love climbing mountains, right?
Okay.
And, cycling up them. Sometimes, I've cycled up Pikes Peak, and it's taken me, it's like a 3-hour climb, right? But you're just cycling through, but it relates a lot in life, right? Like, you get to the top, and you accomplish something, and, the view from up top, is awesome, right? You're like, hey, I've worked so hard to get up here, and that's what I was telling the agents is like, you're climbing a mountain right now, just zigzagging back and forth, and we get to the top, and we're like, hey, we did it, and then you're gonna see another mountain. We're like, I got to tackle that one now. So those are a lot of things. Yeah, we live by. Or me, it's every day. I try to hustle, try to make it happen. We always say be positive. Things happen. In this business that some days you're like, man, this is a tough business. And you're like, oh man. But if you can be positive with things, I mean, you're gonna do great in this business, right? I mean, it's a fun time. It's a fun business, but you got to make sure you're feeding your mind right too, because we're our worst critic at times. And so I've always said, hey, let's go make it happen and hustle and be positive with things, and just keep working hard and keep climbing that mountain, because you're going to get to the top of it and be like, we conquered that one, but the problem is then there's going to be another mountain, and you're like, let's conquer that one and keep going.
I love that, man. It speaks volumes to so many people that are out there, and the positive nature of you and your brand and what's out here. It speaks volumes. Obviously, reputation and legacy that you're done in this marketplace is phenomenal. So, Josh, you're an official real estate titan, my friend. Woo! Thanks so much for taking the time. Everybody, I appreciate your love and support. Thanks again for all of that you do. As always, live every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, different Titan, different location. We'll catch you guys on the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care.
All right.
And we are